In today's lecture, we are going to discuss sample designs and sampling procedures. So there are some terms in sampling: sample, population or universe, population element, and census. Sample is subset of larger population, and a population is the total collection of elements about which we wish to make some inferences. Any complete group of people, sales territories, and stores can be the examples of population. Now, what is meant by census? Investigation of all individual elements that makes up a population. A census is a count of all elements in the population. So, all elements in the population makes the census. Now, what is meant by sampling? The process of using small number of items or parts of larger population to make the conclusions about the whole population is called as the sampling. Whenever we do the survey, we have to choose the population. So from population, we take out some number of samples. So the small number of items from the large population makes the sampling in the research. Selecting samples, population, sample, and individual cases. So this is the census which contains population. In this population, some selected elements are called as the samples. This each star is the case or element. What is the need of sampling, or what is the need of sample? Sample is a valid alternative to the census when a survey of the entire population is impracticable. If you are doing the survey of very large population, then it is impractical to use all the entire population. Then you need the sampling. Budget constraints restrict data collection. Time constraints restrict data collection. The results from data collection are needed quickly. So these are the reasons why you need the sampling. Budget is one constraint, time is another constraint, and when you need data collection quickly, you have to use the sampling. So there are different sampling techniques: probability sampling and non-probability sampling. Probability sampling is of again different types: simple random sampling, systematic sampling, stratified random sampling, cluster, multi-stage. Non-probability is again of different types: quota sampling, purposive sampling, snowball sampling, self-selection, convenience sampling. Then again, purposive sampling is of extreme case sampling, heterogeneous sampling, homogeneous sampling, critical case sampling, and critical case sampling. So what are the stages when you are going to select the sample? First of all, you have to define the target population. Then select the sampling frame. Determine if the probability or non-probability sampling method will be chosen. So among the two categories, you have to choose one category. Then plan procedure for selecting sampling units. How you are going to collect the samples, you have to plan the procedure. Here you have to use the tools for data collection. Then determine the sample size. Then select actual sampling units. From whole population and from different samples, you have to choose the actual sampling units and conduct the fieldwork. Now what is meant by target population? The specific complete group to research project is called as the target population. What is meant by sampling frame? A sample frame is the listing of all population elements from which the sample will be drawn. Sampling unit. Group selected for the sample is called as sampling unit. Primary sampling units are there, secondary sampling units are also there, and tertiary sampling units are there. And what is meant by random sampling error? The difference between the sample results and the results of census. Census is the whole population, and if you are calculating the results from sample and results from whole census, and if there is the difference between these two results, that error is called as, that difference is called as the random sampling error. Statistical fluctuation due to the chance of variation. Systematic errors. These are non-sampling errors, unrepresentative sample results, not due to chance, due to study design or imperfections in the execution. So there are systematic errors also, that not because of the sample size, that is due to the study design and imperfections in the execution. Errors associated with sampling. Sampling frame error is associated with sampling. Random sampling error is also associated with sampling, and non-response error is also associated with sampling. So there are two major categories of sampling: probability sampling and non-probability sampling. What is probability sampling? Probability sampling is known. Non-zero probability for every element is there. Probability is the chance. Then non-probability sampling, probability of selecting any particular member is unknown. In probability sampling, every element has the equal chance of selection. In non-probability sampling, there is not equal chance of selection of every element or every member. Non-probability sampling is of four types: convenience sampling, judgment sampling, quota sampling, and snowball sampling. Probability sampling is of these types: simple random sampling, systematic sampling, stratified, cluster, and multi-stage sampling. Now one by one we will see. Convenience sampling. Convenience samples are non-probability samples where the element selection is based on ease of accessibility. So this is according to the convenience of data collection. So it is called as the convenience sampling. They are the least reliable but cheapest and easiest to conduct. Suppose you are doing any survey and you are collecting the data from according to the your convenience of collection, that comes under the convenience sampling. Examples include informal pools of friends and neighbors, people responding to an advertised invitation, and on the street interviews. So this is one example. Uh, Suppose you are using your friends, neighbors, and people that will respond to your survey. So this is according to your convenience. So it will be under the convenience sampling. Judgment sampling. It is also called as purposive sampling. An experienced individual selects the sample based on his or her judgment about some appropriate characteristics required of the sample member. Suppose, for example, we are doing the feedback survey from the students, and if I am selecting some students that are of my favor, that means I am selecting the samples that are based on my judgment. So this comes under the judgment sampling or purposive sampling. Next, quota sampling ensures that the various subgroups in the population are represented on pertinent sample characteristics. So here sampling is based on the groups or subgroups in the population to the exact extent that the investigator desire. So it should not be confused with the stratified sampling. Stratified sampling is a little bit different from this. In quota sampling, quota is nothing but the one category. So there may be various subgroups in a population. So based on that subgroups, if sampling or samples are selected, it comes under the quota sampling. Snowball sampling, a variety of procedures and initial respondents are selected by probability methods. Additional respondents are obtained from information provided by the initial respondents. If your sampling is of snowball type, in which initial respondents are selected, so this comes under the snowball sampling. Then simple random sampling, a sampling procedure that ensures that each element in the population will have an equal chance of being included in the sample. For example, if you have to choose a class coordinator from your class and 10 students are interested to be a class coordinator, then the 10 sheets of their names are collected and only one sheet from the 10 is selected. So this type of selection comes under the simple random sampling. All the 10 students have an equal chance of being selected in the sample. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of simple random sampling? Simple random sampling is easy to implement with random dialing, and disadvantage requires least of population elements. It is time consuming, larger samples are needed, produces large errors, and it is costly. Systematic sampling, it is simple process. Every nth name from the list will be drawn. What are the disadvantages and disadvantages? This is simple to design, easier than simple random sampling, easy to determine sampling distribution of the mean or proportion. Disadvantages, periodicity within the population may skew sample and results. Trends in the list may bias result. Moderate cost. Stratified sampling, this comes under the probability sampling. So in this sampling, sub-samples are drawn within different strata. So there are different groups that are termed as strata, and sub-samples are picked out from these different strata. Each stratum is more or less on some characteristics. So it should not be mixed with the quota sampling. Advantages of stratified sampling: control of sample size in strata, increased statistical efficiency, provides data to represent and analyze subgroups. When there are different groups in your population, then you can go for this stratified sampling. Enables use of different methods in strata. Then disadvantages: increased error if subgroups are selected at different rates. So each sample or each subgroup should be of the same size. Especially expensive of strata on population must be created. It is also costly. And cluster sampling. The purpose of cluster sampling is to sample economically while retaining the characteristics of probability sampling. The primary sampling unit is no longer the individual element in the population. The primary sampling unit is larger cluster of elements located in the proximity to one another. So this sampling is used when you want to sample economically. Advantages: provides an unbiased estimate of population parameters if properly done, economically more efficient than simple random sampling, lowest cost per sample, easy to do without list. Disadvantages: often lower statistical efficiency due to subgroups being homogeneous rather than heterogeneous, moderate cost. Now, examples of cluster sampling. Suppose the population is of US adult. So, what are the possible clusters of United States? State, con- countries, metropolitan statistical area, census tracts, blocks, and households. So these are the different clusters in these United States. Examples of cluster. Suppose population element is college seniors, college seniors. Then possible clusters are colleges, counties, metropolitan statistical areas, locality, and plants. For manufacturing firms, again counties, metropolitan statistical area, localities, and plants. Again, some examples of airline travelers. Possible clusters are airports and planes. Sports fans, from the football stadiums, basketball arenas, and baseball parks, according to the scopes. What is the appropriate sample design? The sample with the sample size which is giving more accuracy. It is resourceful. It gives the result in time and advanced knowledge of the population. National versus local. Need of statistical analysis. So these are the characteristics of the good sample designing. Now, internet sampling. Internet surveys allow researchers to rapidly reach a large sample. You know how to collect the data using this Google form. You can do the surveys using the internet nowadays, and it allows researchers to reach to a large sample. Speed is an advantage and also a disadvantage, because you get the data fast, but it should not be. If you are getting the data fast, people are filling a form and sending you, it may be the uh, it, the data is non-reliable also. Sample size requirements can be made overnight or almost instantly. Survey should be kept open long enough so all sample units can participate. Now, disadvantages: lack of computer ownership and internet access among certain segment of the population. So you can't cover all type of population under this internet sampling. There may be some population where you can't reach because of the lack of computer ownership or internet access. Yet internet samples may be representative of target populations. Target populations, visitors to a particular websites can be gained or used in this internet sampling. Hard to reach subjects may participate. So it is not easy to reach to the subjects who is responding to your website visitors. So website visitors are also can be used as samples. Unrestricted samples are clearly convenient samples. Randomly selecting visitors. Questionnaires request randomly and pop up, over representing the more frequent visitors. So website visitors can be the sample, and it is unrestricted, random, and over representing. In panel samples typically yield a high response rate. Members may be compensated by their time with the sweepstake or small cash incentive. Database on members. Demographic and other information from previous questionnaires can be picked up. Select quota samples based on product, ownership, lifestyle, and other characteristics. Probability samples from large panels. Internet samples are also of recruited ad hoc samples and opt-in list. So these two are the new. You may not find in the notes, but you should know. So I have included in the PPTs. Thank you.